I was fired from my job after 30 years for being too old. My name's Mike. I'm 52, and until last Tuesday, I was senior logistics manager at National Shipping Solutions, basically UPS with worse benefits and more corporate BS. I've been moving packages from point A to point B since before half these new hires were born. I could tell you the fastest route from Portland to Pittsburgh with my eyes closed, factoring in traffic patterns, seasonal weather, and which truck stops have decent coffee, and those amazing apple fritters that'll give you heartburn but are totally worth it. Last month, things started feeling off. My wife Diane left me for her CrossFit instructor, 38 years old with arms like tree trunks and a portfolio of investment properties. I came home from a 12-hour shift to find a note on the refrigerator. 15 years of marriage summarized in 3 paragraphs, and with, "I need to live my authentic life," whatever the heck that means. She even took our golden retriever. Buddy left his favorite chew toy, just a twist a knife. I threw myself into work after that. What else was I supposed to do? My Netflix watch list wasn't going to fill the void, and my buddy Dave kept trying to set me up with his recently divorced cousin who, according to him, has a great personality and makes killer lasagna. Logistics was the one thing I understood. When your personal life is in shambles, there's something comforting about knowing exactly how to route a shipment of refrigerated pharmaceuticals from Miami to Chicago during a heat wave. Then came Tuesday. I was reviewing quarterly performance metrics when HR Jennifer poked her head into my office. "Mike, can you come upstairs? Marcus wants to see you." Marcus being our COO, who took over last year after the company restructured. 30-something MBA type who wears those stupid skinny pants that look like they cut off circulation to important body parts and uses words like synergy and bandwidth when talking about lunch orders. I figured it was about the Denver Hub Efficiency Report I'd submitted last week. Had some solid recommendations for cutting fuel costs by 8% without compromising delivery times. Pretty proud of that one. Even used some of those fancy graphs the execs seem to love these days. The walk to Marcus's corner office felt longer than usual. Jennifer gave me that tight-lipped HR smile before leaving me at his door. You know the one. The smile that says, "I'm professionally obligated to appear pleasant while delivering terrible news." Marcus didn't even get up from his desk when I entered. Bad sign. He was typing on his MacBook, those hipster glasses perched on his nose. The office walls were covered with motivational posters featuring mountains and eagles. Real original stuff. Perseverance with a guy climbing a cliff. Teamwork with people rowing a boat. Wonder if he knew the irony of having a loyalty poster right behind his head. "Mike, have a seat," he said, still looking at his screen for another 30 seconds before finally making eye contact. "I'll get right to it. National Shipping is pivoting toward a more agile, tech-forward approach. We're streamlining operations across all departments." I nodded, waiting for the real conversation to start. But his next words hit me like a truck on an icy highway. "We decided to eliminate your position. Today will be your last day." I must have looked like I'd been slapped with a wet fish. 30 years. 3 decades of missed weekends, canceled vacations, middle-of-the-night crisis calls. I'd built half the systems they were using. Is this about the Denver report? Because I can revise. Marcus cut me off. "It's not about any particular project, Mike. The company's heading in a new direction. We need fresh perspectives, people who grew up with a digital ecosystem." Digital ecosystem? I wanted to remind him that I was computerizing route maps when he was still watching cartoons and eating Fruit Loops in his pajamas. But I bit my tongue. "Your severance package is outlined here," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. 2 months' salary. Plus, we're letting you keep your benefits through the end of the quarter. HR will help you with the transition. I flipped through the pages. 30 years of loyalty translated to 8 weeks of pay. There was also a form releasing the company from any age discrimination claims. Subtle. That's it. I asked, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. "We also got you this," he said, reaching into a drawer and pulling out a coffee mug. It was white with the company logo and "Thanks for your service," printed in that corporate blue color. A coffee mug. 3 decades, and they couldn't even spring for a decent watch or at least an Amazon gift card. I signed the papers because what choice did I have? Jennifer escorted me back to my office to collect my things. As we walked, I noticed people avoiding eye contact. News travels faster than that time Bob from accounting accidentally sent his fantasy football trash talk to the entire company instead of his league buddies. The final insult came when I reached my desk. Already sitting in my chair was some kid who couldn't have been more than 25. Man bun, AirPods, the works. He was literally Googling logistics supply chain basics on his phone while trying to look busy. Jennifer hovered awkwardly as I packed up my family photos and the desk plant I kept alive for 12 years. "We'll need your badge and company phone," she reminded me. The kid in my chair didn't even get up, just rolled slightly to the side while continuing to scroll on his phone. I caught a glimpse of his screen. He'd moved on to logistics manager's salary range. Good luck with that, kid. Wait till you're dealing with truckers stranded in Wyoming during a blizzard at 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Walking to the parking lot, carrying my sad little box of office remnants, I passed rows of gleaming SUVs and luxury cars belonging to the executive team. My 2011 Ford F-150 looked like it belonged in a different century. But hey, that truck had got me through 3 Midwest winters, 2 cross-country moves, and countless trips to Home Depot. Loyalty still means something to some of us. I tossed my box in the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel, not starting the engine. 30 years. Gone. Must be nice, I muttered to myself. Running everything through your fancy apps while I built the system from scratch with Excel and pure stubborn determination. The next 3 weeks were a blur of rejection. I updated my resume, created a LinkedIn profile, with help from a YouTube tutorial, and started applying everywhere. My profile picture was taken in my kitchen with a bed sheet as a backdrop, probably not winning any professional points there. The responses were all variations on the same theme. We're looking for someone with more current experience. Your skills are impressive, but we need someone familiar with today's logistics technology. While your background is substantial, we're pursuing candidates who align more closely with our forward-looking vision. Translation: you're too old. One recruiter actually told me, "Have you considered consulting?" Many professionals your age find that appealing. My age? I'm 52, not 92. I'm not ready for the retirement home yet. I reached the lowest point on a Wednesday night, sitting in my kitchen eating ramen noodles for dinner. The house felt empty without Diane. I got the final divorce papers that morning, along with another rejection email from a company I'd actually been excited about. Even my fantasy football team was tanking. 3 starters on injured reserve in week 5. Thursday morning, I met my buddy Dave at Pete's Diner, our usual spot. Dave's been a mechanic for 40 years, runs his own shop. He listened to my story over eggs and coffee, nodding occasionally. Dave's the kind of friend who doesn't say much but fixes your furnace in January without being asked and refuses to take money for it. "Know what your problem is, Mike," he said finally, pointing his fork at me. "You're letting them define your worth. Life's like an old pickup truck, you know? It gets dented engine knocked sometimes, but you keep it running." "Difference is," I replied, "nobody's trying to replace an old pickup with a shiny new electric car." Dave laughed. "They might try, but when their fancy vehicle breaks down in the middle of nowhere, who they gonna call? The guy who knows how to fix things with a wrench and some duct tape. The American way, buddy." I appreciated the sentiment, but it didn't solve my immediate problem. I needed work, and nobody was hiring a 52-year-old logistics dinosaur. I was nursing my 3rd cup of coffee when a woman at the next table caught my attention. She was around my age, maybe a bit younger, staring intently at her laptop while making notes in a journal. Professional looking, but with a frazzled energy that felt familiar. She must have felt me looking because she glanced up, offering a tired smile. "Sorry, am I typing too loud?" Job hunting makes me aggressive with the keyboard. Before I knew it, we were chatting. Her name was Sophia, 43, former marketing director for a retail chain that had restructured her out of a job 6 months ago. She'd been told her approach was too traditional for their digital-first strategy. I've been hearing that a lot lately. I said, feeling a strange kinship with the stranger. It's code for you're too old to fit our image, Sophia replied, closing her laptop. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I ran successful campaigns when social media was just getting started, but suddenly my experience is a liability. We traded war stories. Sophia had worked with logistics companies before, helping to market their services to clients. She understood the industry almost as well as I did, just from a different angle. Turns out she lived just a few neighborhoods over from me, in that development with the slightly better school district. What these companies don't get, she said, her coffee cup hitting the table with force, is that experience isn't just about knowing how things used to be done. It's about understanding why they're done that way, what works and what doesn't. Exactly, I said, probably too loudly for 8 a.m. in a quiet diner. Last year, our system crashed during Black Friday. The young guns were panicking, looking for some app to fix it. I grabbed a legal pad and mapped out manual routing for the priority shipments. Save us millions while IT got things back online. Something clicked in my brain. I know modern logistics software, but I also know what happens when the software fails. I can spot inefficiencies that some algorithm might miss. Sophia leaned forward, her eyes suddenly bright with an intensity that made me sit up straighter. She had that look my old football coach used to get before trick play. What if, she said, lowering her voice like she was sharing government secrets, what if we didn't need their approval? What if we started our own logistics company where experience is the selling point, not a liability? I stared at her, my mind racing. It was crazy. It was risky. My mortgage wasn't going to pay itself. But then again, what were my alternatives? Another 50 rejection emails? You're serious? I asked, feeling a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. Sophia grabbed her notebook and flipped to a clean page. Dead serious. They want to push us out? Fine. We'll build something better. I'm thinking small to mid-sized businesses who appreciate talking to real humans who've seen it all. Not everything needs an app, Mike. And just like that, sitting in a corner booth at Pete's Diner, surrounded by the smell of bacon and coffee, with Sweet Caroline playing softly on the jukebox, I felt the first real smile cross my face since that Tuesday in Marcus's office. Maybe, just maybe, getting pushed out wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was the beginning. That conversation with Sophia at Pete's Diner shifted something in me. For the first time since getting canned, I woke up the next morning with a purpose. Sure, my back still ached from sleeping on that lumpy mattress Diane had insisted was therapeutic, but my mind was clear. I called Sophia around 10 a.m., half expecting her to have second thoughts in the cold light of day. Instead, she answered on the first ring. I've been making notes since 5 this morning, she said without preamble. Can you meet at the library? They have free Wi-Fi and nobody bugs you if you stay all day. 4 hours later, we were huddled at a corner table surrounded by business plan templates, logistics industry reports, and empty coffee cups. Sophia had already registered a domain name and sketched out a logo on a napkin. Silver Expertise Logistics, she said, pushing the napkin toward me. Because we're turning gray hair into our selling point. I laughed for what felt like the first time in months. Selling experience instead of hiding it. I like the irony. Our business model was simple. Focus on small to medium-sized businesses that were being ignored by the big logistics companies. Offer personalized service, flexible solutions, and the kind of know-how that only comes from decades in the trenches. These tech bros think logistics is just an app, I explained to Sophia. But when a truck breaks down in Montana during a snowstorm, you need someone who knows which local mechanics are reliable and which motels will let drivers keep their pets in a room. Sophia nodded, typing furiously. That's exactly what we're selling. Not algorithms, actual human expertise. Reality hit hard when we started talking startup costs. Neither of us had much savings left. The divorce had cleaned me out, and Sophia had been living on unemployment and freelance gigs for months. We need about $50,000 minimum, I calculated, looking at our spreadsheet. Office space, basic equipment, insurance, website, initial marketing. Sophia's face fell. I've got maybe $12,000 I can pull together. I stare at the numbers. then made a decision I never thought I'd make. I'll sell my truck. Your F-150? But you love that thing. It's just a truck, I said, though we both knew it wasn't true. That truck had been with me through everything. Helping friends move, hauling Christmas trees, road trips with Diane before things went south. But what was I saving it for? Sunday drives to nowhere? My dad's voice echoed in my head. He'd built his hardware store from nothing after getting laid off from the steel mill. You don't need millions to start something worthwhile, Mike. You just need heart and a plan. 2 weeks later, I watched a young couple drive away in my truck. The guy was beaming like he'd won the lottery, already talking about fishing trips and tailgating. I clutched the envelope with $18,500. Not a fortune, but enough to get us started when combined with Sophia's contribution. Our office was Sophia's detached garage, which leaked when it rained, and a questionable wiring that made the lights flicker whenever the ancient refrigerator kicked on. We set up 2 folding tables from Walmart, bought refurbished laptops, and splurged on a decent printer. The rest went into registering the business, insurance, and building a website that didn't look like it was made in 1998. On our first official day of business, Sophia brought champagne in red Solo cups. We stood in that drafty garage, surrounded by extension cords and office supplies still in their packaging. To Silver Expertise Logistics, she said, raising her cup, where gray hair is a feature, not a bug. I clinked my plastic cup against hers. To all the companies who thought we were too old to matter, Sophia's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and defiance. Welcome to our logistics revolution, partner. The first month was brutal. I spent my days mapping out potential service areas, calling old contacts, and creating operational systems that would work with our limited resources. Sophia focused on marketing, building our social media presence, and cold calling potential clients. Most days ended with zero progress. My contacts were either retired, had moved on to different industries, or were too loyal to their current providers to take a chance on us. Sophia's marketing efforts were getting likes, but no leads. Our first client came from an unexpected source, my neighbor Jerry, who ran a small craft brewery. He needed to ship special release beers to customers across the state and was fed up with the big carriers breaking his bottles. I'll give you guys a shot, he said over the fence one evening. But if one bottle breaks, I'm out. That first shipment was a nail-biter. I personally packed each box, using techniques I learned shipping delicate electronic equipment. Sophia found a local driver who was willing to take a chance on us for a fair rate. We both tracked that van like helicopter parents on the first day of kindergarten. When every bottle arrived intact, we celebrated like we'd won the Super Bowl. Jerry was impressed enough to give us his regular business, all 2 shipments per week. Not exactly empire building, but it was a start. Slowly, we added a few more clients. A local bookstore that shipped rare collections. A small furniture maker who needed white glove delivery services. A specialty food company sending perishables to restaurants. Each new client meant obsessive attention to detail, custom solutions, and often me personally checking in on shipments. We weren't making money yet, but we were building a reputation. Sophia's marketing started to find its groove. She created content highlighting our decades of experience, positioning us as the antidote to faceless corporate logistics. No buzzwords, just results became our tagline, with social media posts featuring real stories of how our experience had saved the day. One post that gained traction showed me using an actual paper map to reroute a delivery when a major highway closed due to an accident. The younger drivers have been paralyzed when their GPS apps failed, but I've been navigating back roads since before smartphones existed. Still, we were burning through our startup funds faster than new business was coming in. The reality of small business ownership hit hard. Endless hours, constant stress, and the gnawing fear that we'd fail before we had a chance to succeed. 3 months in, we faced a crisis. Our insurance payment was due. We needed to repair Sophia's car after it broke down during a client visit, and one of our regular drivers was demanding higher rates. Our bank account was circling the drain. Maybe we were crazy to think this could work. I admitted one night, as we sat on folding chairs in our garage office, eating takeout Chinese food for the 3rd time that week. 2 middle-aged rookies thinking we could disrupt an industry. Sophia stabbed at her low mane. We're not rookies. That's the whole point. We just need one break, one client big enough to keep us afloat until word of mouth kicks in. The next morning, I was updating our operations manual when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a name I hadn't seen in years. Tom Reynolds, my former logistics coordinator at National Shipping, before he left for a competitor. Mike, is it true you started your own outfit? His voice was the same, that distinctive Chicago accent that made every statement sound like a baseball commentary. News travels fast. I replied, trying to sound more successful than I felt. You know this industry. Gossip moves faster than packages. Tom laughed. Word is you're focusing on the small players the big guys ignore. I gave him our elevator pitch, emphasizing our experience and personalized approach. To my surprise, he didn't laugh it off. Listen, I've been watching what you're doing. Those posts Sophia's been putting up? Smart stuff. Reminds me of why I got into this business before everything became about algorithms and quarterly reports. My heart rate picked up. Tom wasn't just a former colleague. He was now regional director at Midwest Distribution Solutions, handling logistics for dozens of companies. I've got a proposition for you, he continued. I'm retiring end of next year. Been saving up, got a nice nest egg. Was going to put it toward my kids' college fund, but that punk decided to join a band instead of going to school. He chuckled, told him I'd support his dreams, but not financially. I held my breath, afraid to hope. How would you feel about a silent partner? Someone who knows the industry, has connections, and believes in what you're trying to do. I nearly dropped the phone. You serious, Tom? Dead serious. I got $50,000 burning a hole in my pocket, and I'd rather invest it in people I trust than watch it sit in some mutual fund earning peanuts. $50,000. Enough to keep us afloat for months, upgrade our equipment, maybe even hire an assistant. I tried to sound professional while my mind was doing cartwheels. We'd need to discuss terms, of course. I managed to say, partnership percentages, expectations, 20% equity, no day-to-day involvement, just quarterly updates. Tom interrupted. I know what I'm buying into, Mike. I've seen what you can do. We arranged to meet the following day to discuss details. After hanging up, I just sat there, staring at the phone, until Sophia came in with our usual morning coffees. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, setting down my cup. I told her about Tom's offer, watching her expression shift from disbelief to cautious excitement. This could be our lifeline, she whispered. The runway we need to really build this thing. We spent the day preparing for our meeting with Tom, polishing our business plan, creating projections, and rehearsing our pitch. This wasn't just about taking his money. We needed to prove we were a sound investment. Tom arrived at our garage office the next morning, looking exactly like I remembered, salt and pepper crew cut, Chicago Cubs tie, and that no-nonsense stride that made even warehouse workers straighten up. He looked around our makeshift headquarters with an appraising eye. I like it, he said finally. Reminds me of where I started. No frills, all function. We spent hours going through our business model, client list, and growth strategy. Tom asked tough questions, poked holes in our assumptions, and made suggestions that only someone with decades in the industry could offer. By afternoon, we had a handshake deal. Tom would invest $50,000 for a 20% stake in Silver Expertise Logistics. The paperwork would be drawn up by his lawyer within the week. As we walked him to his car, Tom pulled out his checkbook. I believe in putting my money where my mouth is, he said, writing a check for the full amount. Consider this my vote of confidence. I stared at the check, the reality of what was happening finally sinking in. Tom handed it over, then fixed me with a serious look. This is my retirement fund, Mike. Money I set aside for my son's education. I'm betting on you and Sophia, because I believe in what you're doing. Don't let me down. The weight of his words hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just about keeping our fledgling business alive anymore. It was about honoring the trust someone had placed in us, someone who believed in our vision enough to invest his future in it. As Tom drove away, Sophia and I stood in the driveway, staring at the check in my hand. No pressure, she said with a nervous laugh. I nodded, feeling a mix of terror and determination. No pressure at all. Just Tom's retirement, our reputations, and our last shot at proving we still matter in this industry. We looked at each other, the enormity of what lay ahead suddenly crystal clear. This was it, our make-or-break moment. There would be no more excuses, no blaming age discrimination or bad luck. We had the funding, the experience, and now the connections to make this work. It was time to show the world what a couple of outdated logistics veterans could really do. Tom's investment changed everything. With actual capital in our bank account, Silver Expertise Logistics began to transform from a desperate gamble into a legitimate business. First order of business, moving out of Sophia's leaky garage and into a small office space in an industrial park. Nothing fancy, just a converted warehouse unit with decent internet, and no wildlife living in the walls. For us, it felt like the Taj Mahal. Our next move was staffing. This is where our business philosophy really took shape. While other companies were busy automating everything and hiring fresh-faced college grads, we went in the opposite direction. We started recruiting people who, like us, had been pushed out for being too experienced. Our first hire was Ed, a 58-year-old dispatcher who'd been early retired from a trucking company after 25 years. The man could coordinate drivers across 3 time zones using nothing but a flip phone and his encyclopedic knowledge of truck stops and road conditions. His former employer had replaced him with a fancy dispatch system that constantly crashed during bad weather. Then came Doris, a 62-year-old customer service specialist who remembered every client's name, birthday, and shipping preferences without needing to look at a database. She'd been let go when her previous company moved to an automated chatbot system. Their loss, our gain. We found Frank, a 55-year-old driver with a spotless record and knowledge of every back road in the Midwest, who'd been sidelined for refusing to use a new app that kept sending trucks down roads too narrow for large vehicles. He became our head of transportation. Within 3 months, we had a team of 12, all over 45, all experts in their fields, all with stories of being pushed aside for algorithms and fresh perspectives. We were building more than a company. We were creating a second chance for people who still had plenty to offer. Our client list was growing too. Word spread among small and medium-sized businesses that we provided something the big companies couldn't: personalized service from people who understood their challenges. A local furniture maker appreciated that we knew how to handle delicate custom pieces. A specialty food supplier valued our understanding of temperature control for perishables. A chain of independent bookstores loved that we treated their rare collections with respect. Even our marketing was hitting its stride. Sophia's strategy of highlighting our experience as an asset rather than a liability was resonating. One of her posts, showing our team's combined 247 years of logistics experience compared to the average 3.5 years at tech-focused competitors, went mini-viral in business circles. By month 5, we were actually turning a profit. Small but real. Tom's investment was proving to be the smartest gamble he'd ever made. Then came the day I'd been secretly dreading. I was reviewing routing plans when my phone buzzed with a number I recognized immediately. Marcus, my former boss from National Shipping Solutions. Mr. Skinny Jeans himself. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. Marcus was surprisingly cordial, congratulating me on my little venture, and suggesting we meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The following day, I found myself sitting across from him at an overpriced coffee shop where a simple black coffee cost more than my hourly wage back when I started in logistics. Marcus hadn't changed. Same designer glasses, same carefully casual business attire, same vibe as someone who'd read too many disruptor profiles in business magazines. After some awkward small talk, he got to the point. National Shipping had noticed our growing presence in the regional market. They were impressed by our focus on personalized service and experienced staff. They wanted to partner with us, or more accurately, absorb us. The offer wasn't terrible on paper. National would acquire Silver Expertise, keeping our team intact as a specialty division focused on high-touch client relationships. We'd have resource backing, benefits, stability. I'd get a director position with a salary higher than I'd ever made there before. Sophia would lead a new heritage marketing initiative. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same company that had tossed me aside for being outdated now wanted to capitalize on that very experience. They'd fire me for being too old, then hire me back for being heritage. For a brief moment, I considered it. The stability alone was tempting. No more lying awake at 3 a.m. worrying about payroll or insurance premiums. No more dipping into my dwindling retirement account during slow months. But then I looked at Marcus's expectant face and remembered sitting in his office, being handed that pathetic coffee mug after 30 years of service. I declined his offer, using more professional language than I really wanted to. When he pressed, asking if I understood the risks of competing against a national corporation, I finally let some truth slip out. I told him I'd rather work myself to the bone building something meaningful than crawl back to a company that saw employees as disposable parts. Marcus's smile tightened as he warned me that business wasn't personal. I disagreed, telling him that in logistics, a service industry at its core, business was absolutely personal. Sophia backed my decision completely when I told her about the meeting. While she admitted the security would have been nice, she believed in what we were building, a company that valued experience and treated people with respect. Our team felt the same way when we shared the news. The pride in their eyes when they realized we'd turned down a lucrative buyout to preserve our vision was worth more than any corporate offer. But national shipping wasn't done with us. It started with small things. Clients reporting that a national shipping rep had contacted them, claiming our company was unstable and likely to fold. Then came the negative reviews online, clearly fake, but damaging nonetheless. Some of our regular loads were suddenly being underbid at rates that made no business sense. The worst blow came when we received a certified letter claiming we had misappropriated proprietary routing information from national shipping. They were threatening legal action unless we cease operations in certain regions. Coincidentally, our most profitable areas. Sophia was rattled. Legal battles were expensive, and going up against a corporate giant with endless resources seemed impossible. Even Tom was concerned, suggesting we might need to consider a settlement to avoid being bankrupted by legal fees alone. I spent that night pacing my apartment, remembering my father's voice during the worst crisis his hardware store had faced, a flood that had destroyed nearly all his inventory. When I'd asked if he would close the shop, he'd shaken his head. When the storm is raging, fools take shelter, but the strong move forward. The next day, he'd been first in line at the bank, securing a loan to rebuild bigger than before. Morning brought clarity and determination. National Shipping was betting we'd fold under pressure. They were wrong. We called an emergency team meeting, laying out everything: the threats, the fake reviews, the client poaching, the legal intimidation. Instead of panic, I saw anger and resolve on the faces of people who were tired of being pushed around by corporate bullies. Our counterattack was pure transparency. Sophia created a social media campaign documenting everything National Shipping was doing to crush us. We shared actual client testimonials against their fake reviews. We published our routing methodologies to prove we weren't using anything proprietary, just decades of accumulated knowledge. Frank suggested we contact the local business journal about how a corporation was trying to eliminate a growing small business. The resulting article painted National Shipping as a corporate bully and us as scrappy underdogs fighting for survival. Then came our most audacious move. I recorded a simple, straight-to-camera video in our warehouse. No script, no fancy editing, just raw honesty. I explained how I'd been pushed out after 30 years of being expired, how we built a company that valued experience, and how that same corporation was now trying to destroy us for daring to succeed. I ended with words that came from the heart. They told me I was past my expiration date, but I've got news for them. I'm still here, and I'll make sure your shipment arrives on time, every time, because that's what experience delivers. Sophia posted the video on a Friday evening, expecting modest views from our usual followers. By Monday morning, my phone was blowing up with notifications. The video had struck a nerve, spreading far beyond our industry. Soon, we were getting calls from local TV stations wanting interviews. The Business Journal ran a follow-up piece. Even a few national outlets picked up the story. Pushed out professionals pushed back. Our little war against a corporate giant was becoming a symbol of something bigger, a stand against age discrimination and corporate bullying. Suddenly, Silver Expertise Logistics wasn't just a small regional shipping company. We were a cause. And that video of mine? It was racking up views by the thousands, with comments pouring in from people sharing their own stories of being discarded despite their value and experience. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since receiving that threatening letter, I felt like we might actually win this thing. They say Americans love an underdog story. Turns out that's more than just a cliche. It's a powerful business strategy. My simple warehouse video blew up beyond anything we could have imagined. What started as a few thousand views ballooned to hundreds of thousands within days. By the 2-week mark, we crossed 2 million views and were being featured on morning talk shows and business podcasts across the country. The timing couldn't have been better. National Shipping's heavy-handed tactics against us struck a nerve with the public right when corporate ethics were under the microscope. People were tired of seeing hardworking veterans pushed aside for younger, cheaper replacements. Our story became a rallying cry for everyone who'd ever been told they were overqualified or not a culture fit. Code words that anyone over 40 recognized all too well. What really stunned us was how quickly this translated into actual business. Companies that had never returned our calls were suddenly reaching out, eager to work with that logistics company from the video. Small businesses loved supporting fellow underdogs, while larger companies wanted to associate with our positive public image. Regional retail chains switched to our services. Manufacturing plants that needed reliable shipping partnered with us. Even a few national brands with local distribution needs came knocking, wanting the PR boost of working with a company that stood for something. Our staff expanded from 12 to 30 in just 2 months. We had to lease additional warehouse space and invest in more vehicles. The Silver Expertise approach was working. Our team of veterans was outperforming competitors through sheer knowledge and determination. Sophia's marketing brilliance turned our everyday operations into compelling content. When one of our drivers navigated a blizzard to deliver medical supplies to a rural hospital, she shared the story with beautiful photos of Frank, our 55-year-old driver, being thanked by hospital staff. When Doris remembered clients' emergency shipping protocols without having to look them up, saving crucial time during a manufacturing crisis, that became a powerful testimonial about the value of experience. Our success wasn't just hurting National Shipping's ego. It was impacting their bottom line. Industry publications reported they were losing clients in our region at an alarming rate. Their stock price had taken a hit after an analyst report questioned their employment practices and highlighted the growing experience-focused trend we were spearheading. 6 months after my video went viral, we got word that National Shipping was conducting layoffs and closing several regional offices, including the one where I'd spent 3 decades. Their aggressive growth strategy had backfired, leaving them overextended just as their reputation was taking a hit. I took no joy in seeing former colleagues lose their jobs. Many were good people caught in bad management decisions. We even hired a few who reached out, including Jennifer from HR, who admitted she felt horrible about how I'd been pushed out. Then came the call I never expected to receive. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was reviewing expansion plans with Sophia when my phone lit up with Marcus's name. I almost declined the call out of habit, but curiosity won out. Marcus sounded nothing like the confident executive who'd fired me or the condescending suit who'd tried to buy us out. His voice was strained, humbled. National Shipping was in free fall. The board had fired the CEO. Investors were pulling out. Their stock had dropped 60% in 3 months. The company that had once dominated regional logistics was now fighting for survival. What Marcus said next left me speechless. They wanted me to come back, not as an employee, but as a savior. The board was willing to sell me controlling interest in the regional division at a fraction of its value from just a year ago. They believed I was the only one who could restore client confidence and right the ship. I thanked him for the call and promised to consider the offer, then sat in stunned silence after hanging up. Sophia watched me with concern, asking what had happened. When I explained, a slow smile spread across her face as she pointed out the beautiful irony. The company that had deemed me too old and outdated now thought I was their only hope. That evening, I stood on my apartment balcony watching the sunset, thinking about how life can come full circle in the most unexpected ways. Just a year ago, I'd been cleaning out my desk, humiliated and lost. Now I was being offered the keys to the kingdom. I couldn't help but laugh as I recalled Marcus's desperate tone. I thought about what I might say in this moment. Imagine myself asking, "Who's obsolete now?" But the victory felt hollow. This wasn't about revenge. It was about building something better. The success of Silver Expertise was bringing another unexpected development. Through late nights planning routes, early morning crisis management, and countless coffee fuel strategy sessions, Sophia and I had grown closer than either of us had anticipated. It started small, lingering glances over spreadsheets, her hand brushing mine when pointing at maps, inside jokes that made our team roll their eyes. Neither of us was looking for romance. We were both battle-scarred from past relationships and focused on building our company. But there's something powerful about finding someone who shares your vision, who fights alongside you through the toughest challenges, who believes in you when the world says you're past your prime. Our first real date wasn't even planned. We'd been working late, finalizing a major contract proposal, when Sophia suggested we grab dinner to celebrate. One bottle of wine led to honest conversations about our failed marriages, our hopes, our fears. I found myself telling her things I'd never share with anyone, not even Diane during our 15 years together. Dating while running a business together wasn't easy. We kept things professional at work, not wanting to complicate our team dynamics. But after hours, we discovered a connection neither of us had expected at this stage of life. 4 months later, I proposed in the most fitting location I could think of, the booth at Pete's Diner, where she'd first suggested we start our own company. No fancy restaurant, no elaborate setup, just two people who'd found each other when they least expected it. Our wedding was quintessentially Midwestern, a backyard barbecue with our employees, friends, and family. Tom gave a toast that had everyone alternating between laughter and tears as he recalled investing his son's college fund in two crazy middle-aged logistics nerds. That investment had now tripled in value, allowing his son to attend college after all. Once the band thing didn't work out, with our personal and professional lives thriving, Marcus's offer presented an interesting dilemma. Buying National Shipping's regional division would instantly make us one of the largest logistics providers in the Midwest. It would mean absorbing the very company that had once discarded me. Sophia and I spent weeks analyzing the opportunity, running the numbers, considering the implications. National Shipping's infrastructure and client base were valuable despite recent struggles. Their technology was superior to ours in many ways. But they'd lost something essential: trust. We eventually decided to make a counteroffer. We'd purchased the regional division, but at our price and our terms. To my surprise, they accepted with minimal negotiation, a testament to how desperate their situation had become. The acquisition was finalized on a Friday afternoon, almost exactly 1 year after I'd been fired. The symmetry wasn't lost on anyone, especially when I walked into my old building, now as the owner rather than employee. Many familiar faces remained, looking uncertain about their future under new leadership. I made sure my first address to the staff emphasized that experience would be valued, not discarded. No one would be pushed out for being too senior. As I settled into what had once been Marcus's corner office, he'd been transferred to a smaller division in another state. I couldn't help reflecting on the journey. The coffee mug they'd given me as a parting gift still sat on my shelf at home, a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change. Some might have viewed this acquisition as the ultimate revenge, buying a company that had once deemed me worthless. But that's not how I saw it. This wasn't about helping National Shipping or exacting vengeance. This was my chance to rebuild something broken, to create the company I'd always believed was possible, one that balanced efficiency with humanity, technology with experience, profit with purpose. As I looked out over the operations floor, watching a mix of Silver Expertise veterans and National Shipping staff working together, I couldn't help thinking, this isn't about helping them. This is my opportunity to show them how it should have been done all along. 3 years after being handed that insulting coffee mug, I found myself standing in the corner office on the top floor of what was now the Silver Expertise Logistics headquarters. The same building where I'd been fired now served as a command center for our operations spanning 17 states. The view from up here was something else. The city skyline, the highways snaking into the distance, arteries of commerce that our trucks traveled every day. I could see our main warehouse from here, bustling with activity even at this late hour. The merger of Silver Expertise and National Shipping's regional division had been challenging but ultimately successful. We kept the best of both worlds, their infrastructure and our people-first philosophy. The first year was rough, integrating systems and cultures, convincing skeptical employees that we really did value experience over youth. But by year 2, we were outperforming projections, and now in year 3, we were expanding again. Tom's initial investment had grown 20-fold. His son had graduated college. Turns out the band didn't work out, and now worked in our finance department. Sophia joked that Tom was the luckiest accidental investor in logistics history. Speaking of Sophia, she appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand, looking just as determined as the day we'd sketched our business plan on diner napkins. Marriage and business partnership could have been complicated, but somehow we'd found the right balance. At work, she was still the marketing genius who turned our story into a brand. At home, she was my partner in a life I never expected to have at this stage. The glass wall of my office featured a single decoration that, "Thanks for your service," coffee mug in a shadow box. Below it, a small plaque read, "Best $8.99 investment ever made, National Shipping Solutions 2022. It served as a daily reminder of how quickly things can change, and how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. We become something of a case study in business schools. The Silver Expertise model was now shorthand for companies that prioritize experience and institutional knowledge over youth and trendiness. I'd even been invited to give guest lectures, me, a guy who'd never finished college, teaching MBA students about sustainable business practices. Our hiring philosophy hadn't changed. We still actively recruited professionals over 45, especially those pushed out of other companies for being too senior. Our average employee age was 52, with a combined 200-plus years of industry experience. And our retention and customer satisfaction rates led the industry. The original team had all moved up the ranks. Ed now oversaw all dispatch operations. Doris had built a customer service department that competitors tried unsuccessfully to poach talent from. Frank had expanded our driver training program, teaching young drivers a wisdom that only comes from decades on the road. Even Jennifer from HR, who'd escorted me out on my last day at National Shipping, now headed our human resources department with a commitment to fair treatment that came from seeing the alternative up close. We weren't perfect. We had our share of challenges and mistakes. Technology still occasionally baffled me, and I relied heavily on younger staff to keep us current while we taught them the fundamentals of logistics that no app could replace. But we'd found a balance that worked, honoring experience while embracing innovation. As for Marcus, I heard he'd eventually left the industry altogether. Last I knew, he was trying to launch a tech startup focused on efficiency algorithms. I wished him well. Without his decision to push me out, none of this would have happened. My ex-wife Diane had reached out after seeing me on a business news segment. Her CrossFit instructor hadn't worked out. Apparently his investment properties were mostly aspirational, and she wondered if we might reconnect. I politely declined, grateful that life had led me where it did. The sun was setting over the city, casting long shadows across the office buildings and warehouses below. Another day of successfully moving thousands of shipments across the country, medical supplies, manufacturing components, retail goods, the lifeblood of commerce flowing to the logistics network we'd built. Sophia stepped fully into the office, approaching the window where I stood. Together, we looked out at the empire we'd built from nothing but experience, determination, and the foolish decision of a company that thought people like us were disposable. I couldn't help smiling. Thinking about that day I cleaned out my desk, humiliated and lost. How could I have known it would be the best thing that ever happened to me? They thought I was finished, a relic from another era, but I was just getting started. My reflective moment was interrupted by Sophia nudging my shoulder. She handed me her tablet, showing the details of a major new contract opportunity, a national retail chain looking to revamp their entire distribution system. It would be our biggest account yet, potentially doubling our operation. Sophia had that look in her eye, the one that meant she already had 3 marketing strategies planned and was just waiting for my go-ahead. The same look that had saved me from depression at Pete's Diner 3 years ago. Looking at the contract details, I felt that familiar mix of excitement and anxiety that comes with big opportunities. We'd be competing against the biggest names in logistics for this one. When I mentioned this, Sophia just laughed. Who better to handle their complex needs than the company built on experience? The youngsters might promise fancy tech solutions, but we offered something more valuable. People who knew how to handle anything the industry could throw at them. She was right, of course. That had always been our edge. While others were busy chasing trends, we focus on the fundamentals that never change: reliability, problem solving, and human connections. I closed the tablet and nodded. This was who we were now. Confident, established, but still hungry. Still with something to prove. Sophia headed toward the door, reminding me we had a strategy meeting in 5 minutes to discuss the new contract. As she reached the doorway, she turned back with a smirk and called me boss, her favorite way to tease me when we were at work. I glanced once more at the city below, and that coffee mug on the wall. From pushed out to powerhouse. From discarded to dominant. From fire to founder. Sometimes the best success stories start with someone telling you that you're finished. And sometimes at 52, you're actually just getting started.